The package felt heavier than usual in Rachel's hands as she checked the delivery address one more time. Her worn boots echoed against the metal floor of Port Haven Station while she walked through the crowded marketplace. Vendors called out their prices for exotic fruits and tech parts from dozens of worlds. The smell of fried food mixed with the sharp scent of cleaning chemicals that the station workers used every morning. Rachel had been delivering mail for 2 years now. Every day brought the same rhythm. Wake up at 6, grab breakfast from the automated dispenser, load her delivery cart, and start her rounds. She liked the predictability. Back on Earth, her family ran a small farm where every day meant the same chores. This job felt familiar in that way. Honest work with a clear purpose. Today, her supervisor, Dennis, had changed her route without warning. Instead of her usual path through the residential sectors, she now had to cover the Dragon Quarter. Rachel had only been there once before, and that was just to pick up some mis-delivered packages. The dragons who lived there kept to themselves mostly. They were tall, scaled beings who walked on 2 legs like humans, but had wings folded against their backs and long tails that swept behind them. Their faces were angular with sharp teeth and eyes that seemed to glow in dim light. She approached the first address on her list. The door was larger than standard human size, made of dark metal with symbols etched into its surface. Rachel pressed the call button and waited. Her delivery scanner beeped softly in her hand. The door slid open and an elderly dragon stood there. His scales were deep bronze color with patches of gray around his eyes. He wore simple robes that looked expensive. His yellow eyes widened when he saw her. "Ambassador Thorne?" Rachel asked, checking her scanner. "I have a package for you from the Science Academy on Centauri 5. The dragon said nothing for a moment. He just stared at her with an expression Rachel could not read. Then slowly, very slowly, he lowered his head in what looked like a bow. His wings rustled against his back. "Keeper of words," he said in a deep voice that rumbled like distant thunder. "You honor my dwelling." Rachel blinked. I'm just here to deliver your package, sir. If you could just sign here." She held out her scanner. The dragon took it carefully, his clawed hands gentle despite their size. He signed with precise movements, then handed it back. But he did not take the package right away. Instead, he placed one hand over his chest and bowed again. The old ways returned, he whispered. "I did not think I would see this day." "Right?" Rachel said slowly. She had no idea what he meant. "So, your package?" Ambassador Thorne took the box from her hands like it was made of glass. "You carry the threads between souls. This is sacred work." Rachel forced a smile. "Just doing my job, sir. Have a good day." She turned and walked away quickly. Behind her, she heard other doors opening. When she glanced back, 3 more dragons had stepped into the corridor. They were all watching her. One of them, a younger dragon with green scales, placed his hand over his chest the same way Ambassador Thorne had done. The rest of her deliveries in the Dragon Quarter went similarly strange. Every dragon she met reacted with surprise and what seemed like reverence. A female dragon with silver scales actually gasped when Rachel handed her a message tablet. An ancient dragon with scarred wings touched Rachel's shoulder gently and said something in a language her translator did not catch. By the time Rachel finished her route, her head was spinning with confusion. She returned to the postal hub and found Dennis sorting packages at the main counter. He was a short, balding human who had been working for the Galactic Postal Service for 15 years. "Dennis, something weird happened today," Rachel said, setting her empty cart beside the loading dock. "Yeah? What kind of weird?" He did not look up from his sorting. "The dragons on my new route. They kept bowing to me and calling me strange names. One called me Keeper of Words. Another said something about threads and souls." Dennis snorted. "Dragons are weird and formal. Don't worry about it. They have all these ancient customs that nobody understands anymore. Just smile and deliver the mail." But it felt like more than that. They looked at me like I was someone important. "You deliver their mail on time. That probably is important to them." "Look, Rachel, you're overthinking this. Dragons are polite. That's all." Rachel wanted to argue, but Dennis had already moved on to discussing tomorrow's routes with another courier. She grabbed her personal bag from her locker and headed home. Her apartment was small, just 2 rooms in the residential section of Port Haven. The walls were bare except for a photo of her family back on Earth. Her younger brothers stood next to their father in front of the old barn. Her mother held their dog. Rachel felt a pang of homesickness looking at it. She made dinner, a simple meal of rice and vegetables from the station's hydroponic gardens. While eating, she pulled up the Galactic Information Network on her tablet. She searched for information about dragon customs and greetings. Most of what she found was basic cultural data. Dragons valued honor and tradition. They had complex social hierarchies based on age and achievement. They were one of the oldest spacefaring species in the Empire, with a history stretching back thousands of years. Nothing explained why they would bow to a human mail courier. Rachel tried different search terms. Dragon religious beliefs. Dragon sacred practices. Dragon cultural taboos. The results gave her general information, but nothing specific about mail carriers or messages or keepers of anything. Maybe Dennis was right. Maybe she was overthinking it. Dragons were just formal and polite. That was all. But as Rachel lay in bed that night, she kept remembering the look in Ambassador Thorne's eyes. It had not been simple politeness. It had been something deeper. Recognition, maybe, or hope. She fell asleep wondering what exactly she had walked into, and whether her simple job of delivering mail was about to become much more complicated than she had ever imagined. 3 weeks passed, and Rachel's route now covered 4 different stations with dragon populations. What started as occasional strange encounters had become her daily reality. Every single dragon she met showed the same mysterious reverence. Some bowed. Others touched their chests in that formal gesture. A few whispered words in their own language that her translator struggled to interpret. Rachel stood in the cargo bay of Station Gamma 12, sorting through her morning deliveries. The air smelled like machine oil and recycled atmosphere. Her coworker, Plick, shuffled over carrying a crate of medical supplies. Plick was Tilnari, a species that looked somewhat like Earth's otters, but with 6 limbs and bright blue fur. His species was known for being friendly and talkative. "You look tired," Plick said, setting down his crate. "Bad sleep. Another strange delivery yesterday," Rachel admitted. "A dragon actually knelt when I brought him a package." "Knelt, Plick? Like I was royalty or something." Plick's whiskers twitched with curiosity. "Dragons don't kneel to anyone except their own elders and maybe the Empire's High Council." "You sure that's what happened?" "I'm sure." His name was Scale. Young guy, maybe 30 standard years. He knelt right there in the middle of the commercial district. People were staring. "What did you do?" I asked him to please stand up because he was making me uncomfortable. Then I gave him his package and left as fast as I could. Plick made a clicking sound that meant he was thinking hard. Dragons are proud, extremely proud. For one to kneel to a human courier, there must be a reason. "Did you ask him why?" He said I was she who carries the legacy. Whatever that means. I've worked with dragons for years, and I've never heard that phrase. You should ask one of them directly what's going on. Rachel had considered that option many times over the past weeks. But every time she tried to ask, the dragons would just smile mysteriously or change the subject. It was frustrating. Her scanner beeped, indicating her next delivery was ready for pickup. Rachel loaded her cart and headed out. Today's route took her through the museum district of Station Alpha 7. The corridors here were wider and decorated with art from different worlds. Paintings, sculptures, and holographic displays lined the walls. Her first stop was at a small shop that sold ancient artifacts. The owner was a dragon named Ash, an elderly female with deep red scales that had faded to pink with age. Her wings were tattered at the edges, and she walked with a slight limp. Rachel entered the shop, and the smell of old paper and dust filled her nose. Shelves packed with objects from dozens of civilizations created narrow pathways through the space. Ash stood behind a counter examining something through a magnifying lens. "Good morning," Rachel called out. "I have a delivery for you from the Historical Society." Ash looked up, and her eyes went wide. She set down her lens carefully and moved around the counter. Then, to Rachel's shock, the elderly dragon lowered herself slowly to one knee. Her old joints made small cracking sounds. "Please don't," Rachel said quickly, rushing forward. "Please, you don't need to do that. You'll hurt yourself." "She who carries the legacy," Ash whispered. The reverence in her voice was unmistakable. The thread weaver walks among us again. Rachel helped the old dragon stand, supporting her elbow gently. I don't understand what that means. Please, can you explain? Everyone keeps calling me these names and treating me like I'm someone special, but I'm just a mail courier. I deliver packages. That's all. Ash studied Rachel's face for a long moment. Her ancient eyes seemed to look through Rachel rather than at her. Finally, she spoke in a soft voice. You truly don't know? Know what? The significance of what you do. The meaning it holds for my people. It's just mail, Rachel said, feeling helpless. I pick up packages and deliver them to the right addresses. It's not complicated. Ash made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sigh. Child, nothing is ever just what it appears to be. But I'm not the one who should explain this to you. The council will call for you when the time is right. What council? The Dragon Council of Elders. They have been watching you since your first delivery to Ambassador Thorn. They are deciding if you're truly what we have been searching for. A chill ran down Rachel's spine. Searching for? For how long? 800 years. Give or take a decade. Rachel's mouth went dry. 800 years. They have been searching for something, someone for 8 centuries. And somehow they thought she was it. A human mail courier from Earth who just wanted to do her job and maybe save enough money to visit her family next year. I think there's been a mistake, Rachel said quietly. I'm not special. I'm really not. Ash took the package from Rachel's hands and signed the scanner. Then she reached under her counter and pulled out a small wooden box. She opened it and removed a crystal that glowed with soft blue light. For you, Ash said, holding it out. A gift. I can't accept gifts from customers. It's against company policy. This is not a payment. It is an offering. Please. To refuse would insult me deeply. Rachel hesitated, then took the crystal. It was warm in her palm and surprisingly light. What is it? A message stone. Very old. It was used by our ancient message carriers to prove their identity. When you are called before the council, bring it with you. They will understand. Called before the council? When? Soon, Ash said simply. Very soon. Rachel left the shop with more questions than answers. She continued her route, delivering packages to 3 more dragons and a dozen other species. Each dragon she met showed the same reverence. Each one looked at her with that same expression of hope mixed with wonder. During her lunch break, Rachel sat in a small park area on the station. Artificial trees grew under artificial sunlight. She pulled out her personal tablet and started a log, writing down every strange encounter. The dates, the names, the exact words spoken. If something was going on, she needed to document it. A shadow fell across her tablet. Rachel looked up and saw a young dragon standing there. His scales were bright orange, almost like fire. He looked nervous. Excuse me, he said. You are Rachel Webb, the courier? Yes. Can I help you? I am Cinder. I wanted to say thank you. For what? Did I deliver something to you? No, but you reminded my generation of something we had forgotten. You showed us that dedication to simple tasks has value. That doing ordinary work with care and consistency is honorable. He paused, searching for words. We had lost that. We thought only grand achievements mattered. But watching you, seeing how you treat every delivery with equal importance, it reminded us of our own history, of what our ancestors valued. Rachel did not know what to say. She had never thought of her work that way. It was just a job. She did it well, because that was how she was raised. You worked hard, you did things right, you kept your promises. Simple as that. I'm glad I could help, she finally said. But I'm still just doing my job. Cinder smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth that somehow looked gentle. Exactly, he said. That's exactly why it matters. He placed his hand over his chest in that formal gesture, then walked away. Rachel watched him go, then looked down at the glowing crystal Ash had given her. The blue light pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Whatever was happening, it was bigger than she understood. And apparently, she was going to learn the truth very soon, whether she wanted to or not. The summons arrived on a Tuesday morning in the form of an official message delivered to Rachel's apartment. The envelope was made of thick paper, real paper, not the synthetic stuff used for most documents. Gold symbols were pressed into the wax seal. Rachel's hands shook slightly as she opened it. She was requested, not ordered, but the formality made it feel like an order, to appear before the Dragon Council of Elders at Station Alpha 7. The meeting was scheduled for tomorrow at noon. Dress was listed as casual but respectful. The message was signed by 7 names, each one written in both Dragon script and common language. Rachel read the message 3 times before setting it down on her small kitchen table. Her breakfast of toast and eggs sat forgotten, getting cold. This was it. Whatever had been building over the past month was about to reach some kind of conclusion. She called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years. Dennis sounded surprised but told her to rest and feel better. Rachel felt guilty lying to him, but she could not explain the real reason she needed the day off. She was not even sure she understood it herself. The next morning, Rachel dressed in her best clothes. A simple blue shirt and dark pants. She clipped her hair back neatly and grabbed the message stone Ash had given her. The crystal had not stopped glowing since she received it. She put it in her pocket where it made a small warm spot against her leg. The journey to Station Alpha 7 took an hour by shuttle. Rachel spent the time staring out the window at the stars rushing past. She had grown up on Earth looking at those same stars and dreaming of space. Now here she was, about to meet with the leaders of an ancient dragon civilization, and all she wanted was to go back to her simple life delivering packages. Station Alpha 7 was one of the oldest stations in the Empire. Its architecture mixed modern technology with traditional dragon design. Tall spires reached up from the main structure like claws. Landing bays were carved to look like open mouths. Everything was larger than human scale, built for beings with wings and tails. Rachel followed the directions in her summons to the council chamber. The corridors grew quieter as she walked deeper into the station. Fewer people moved through these areas. The walls were decorated with murals showing dragon history. Battles, celebrations, important moments frozen in art. Point 2 guards stood outside the council chamber doors. They were massive dragons wearing ceremonial armor that gleamed under the lights. When Rachel approached, they looked down at her with unreadable expressions. "Rachel Webb," she said, her voice smaller than she intended. "I was summoned by the council." One guard nodded and pushed open the doors. They were heavy and moved slowly, revealing the chamber beyond. Rachel took a deep breath and stepped inside. The room was circular with a domed ceiling. 7 platforms rose from the floor at different heights, and on each platform sat an elder dragon. Their scales showed their age. Deep colors faded at the edges, scars from long lives, wings that had seen centuries of use. Their eyes all fixed on Rachel as she entered. The door closed behind her with a sound like thunder. Rachel Webb, the largest dragon, spoke. His scales were gray like stone, and his voice filled the chamber without echoing. "I am Granite, High Elder of the Dragon Council. Thank you for accepting our invitation." "I didn't think I had much choice," Rachel said honestly that a few of the elders made sounds that might have been laughter. Granite's expression did not change, but his eyes seemed to warm slightly. "You always have a choice. That is important for what we must discuss. Please come closer." Rachel walked to the center of the chamber. A circular design was carved into the floor beneath her feet. Dragon symbols surrounded a star pattern. She felt very small, standing there, 7 ancient beings looking down at her. "Do you know why we have called you here?" asked another elder, this one with scales like polished copper. "Not really. Everyone keeps treating me strangely, but no one will explain why." "We will explain now," Granite said. "But first, tell us about your work. What do you do as a courier?" Rachel frowned. "You know what I do? I deliver mail and packages. I pick them up from the sorting center, check the addresses, and bring them to the right people." "And how do you approach this work?" "I just do it properly. Make sure everything gets where it's supposed to go. Keep packages safe and dry. Deliver on time, even if the route is difficult." "Why?" asked a third elder with dark blue scales. "You could do less. Many couriers take shortcuts. They deliver late, handle packages roughly. Why do you not do the same?" Rachel felt confused by the question. "Because that would be wrong. People are waiting for these deliveries. Sometimes it's important stuff. Medical supplies, legal documents, messages from family. If I don't do my job right, I'm letting people down. The elders exchanged glances. Granite leaned forward on his platform. You honor the task itself, not just the payment you receive. I guess so. My family taught me to do things right or not do them at all. And you treat every delivery with equal care? A simple letter receives the same attention as an expensive package. Yes, they're all important to someone. Granite sat back and made a deep rumbling sound. The other elders shifted on their platforms. The copper-scaled one spoke next. Rachel Webb, what we are about to tell you is ancient history. Our species has existed for over 10,000 years. In our early civilization, before we had modern technology, we were scattered across many islands and continents on our home world. Communication between these groups was difficult. Another elder, this one with white scales marked with gold, continued the story. We developed a tradition. Certain members of our society were chosen to carry messages between settlements. These individuals were called thread weavers because they wove the threads of connection between separated communities. They braved storms, predators, and hostile territories to deliver their messages. They were considered sacred, holy figures who maintained the bonds that held our civilization together. The blue-scaled elder added, thread weavers took an oath. They swore to protect every message equally, to let no danger stop them, to honor the connection between sender and receiver. This tradition lasted for thousands of years. But then, Granite said, his voice heavy with sadness, we developed advanced technology. Electronic communication. Instant messages across any distance. The tradition of thread weavers faded. Eventually, it was forgotten by most. Physical message carrying became obsolete. No one walked through danger anymore. No one honored the task itself. Rachel listened, starting to understand where this was going. The copper elder continued. We nearly went extinct once, 800 years ago. Our society had become fragmented. We communicated through screens, but had lost true connection. No one spoke face to face. No one traveled to deliver important news personally. The threads that bound us together had weakened until they nearly broke. We survived, Granite said, but we learned a hard lesson. Technology cannot replace the personal touch, the dedication of someone who physically carries a message, who faces hardship to ensure delivery, who honors the connection between beings. We vowed to remember the thread weavers and what they represented, but we found no one who truly embodied those ancient values, the white and gold elders said, until we expanded into the empire and encountered other species. We watched for someone who would treat message carrying as more than just a job, someone who understood, even unconsciously, that they were maintaining the threads between souls. All 7 elders looked at Rachel. We found you, Granite said simply. A human courier who protects packages in bad weather, who delivers on time regardless of personal difficulty, who treats a simple letter with the same care as a valuable shipment. You embody the thread weaver tradition more perfectly than any dragon has in 8 centuries. Rachel's mind was reeling. But I'm just doing my job properly. Anyone could do this. But they do not, Granite said firmly. Most do not. You do. That is what makes you rare. That is what makes you sacred to us. The word sacred hit Rachel like a physical blow. She looked around at the 7 elders, all watching her with expressions of hope and reverence. I don't know what to say, she whispered. You need say nothing, Granite replied. We simply wanted you to understand. You are honored among dragons not because you are human, but because you carry the legacy of our most sacred tradition. You are a thread weaver, whether you claim the title or not. Rachel reached into her pocket and pulled out the glowing crystal Ash had given her. She told me to bring this. All 7 elders inhaled sharply. Granite's eyes widened. A true message stone, he breathed. We thought those were all lost. May I see it? Rachel walked to his platform and held up the crystal. Granite examined it closely without touching it. This belonged to one of the last thread weavers of the old tradition. Ash must have kept it hidden for centuries. That she gave it to you is a sign of immense respect. Rachel looked at the small, glowing crystal in her hand. Such a simple object carrying so much history and meaning. What happens now, she asked. That is entirely your choice, Granite said. You may continue your work as before. Or, if you wish, we can offer you a different path. But know this. You have reminded my people of something we had nearly lost. Hope that the old virtues still exist somewhere. You have given us a gift greater than you know. Rachel closed her fingers around the crystal and felt its warmth spread through her hand. She thought about her grandmother delivering mail in rural areas back on Earth. She thought about all the packages she had delivered over the past 2 years, all the connections she had maintained without even realizing it. Maybe her work was more important than she had believed. Maybe every delivery really did matter in ways she had not understood. Words spread faster than Rachel could have imagined. Within a week of her meeting with the council, every dragon in all 47 systems of the Empire knew about the human thread weaver. Her face appeared on dragon cultural networks. Religious scholars discussed her significance. Young dragons debated whether a human could truly embody their ancient traditions that Rachel's quiet life shattered completely. She could not walk through any station without being recognized. Dragons approached her in markets, in transit hubs, even in the restroom of a small cafe where she had stopped for lunch. They wanted to touch her hands. They wanted blessings for their message crystals. Some wanted photographs. Others wanted to simply stand near her and bow. Her apartment building, which had been peaceful before, now had dragons waiting in the lobby. Station security had to set up barriers. Dennis received so many requests for Rachel's delivery schedule that he stopped answering his messages. The Galactic Postal Service corporate office called 3 times asking if Rachel wanted media training. She felt like she was drowning that on a Friday evening, Rachel sat in her apartment with the curtains drawn. Her message tablet showed 200 unread messages. Interview requests, blessing requests, dragons asking if she would visit their home stations. Someone wanted to write her biography. A dragon artist wanted to paint her portrait. A religious organization asked if she would speak at their annual gathering. Rachel buried her face in her hands. This was not what she wanted. She just wanted to deliver mail and live quietly. She wanted to save money and visit her family. She wanted normal. Her door chimed. Rachel ignored it. It chimed again, then again. Please leave me alone, she called out. It's Cinder. A voice replied through the door. I brought food. Real food, not station rations. I thought you might be hungry. Rachel hesitated, then opened the door. The young dragon stood there holding containers that smelled like actual cooking. Behind him, 3 other dragons waited at the end of the hallway, watching hopefully. Cinder turned to them and spoke sharply in dragon language. They looked disappointed, but moved away. Come in, Rachel said tiredly. Cinder entered and set the food containers on her small table. He was careful not to knock anything over with his tail. Dragons were not built for human-sized apartments. You look exhausted, he said. I am. I can't go anywhere. I can't do my job. Everyone wants something from me, and I don't know what to give them. I know. I'm sorry. We did this to you. Rachel sat down heavily. I don't blame you personally, but I feel like a fraud, Cinder. The council call me sacred, but I'm not. I'm just a person who delivers packages. That's all I've ever been. Cinder opened the food containers. Steam rose, carrying the smell of roasted vegetables and some kind of meat. He served Rachel first, then took a small portion for himself. Can I tell you something? He asked. About my generation of dragons? Sure. We were lost. My parents' generation, they remembered some of the old stories about thread weavers and ancient traditions. But for us, it was all just history. Boring lessons about the past that had no meaning for our lives. We thought success meant wealth, fame, technological advancement. We competed constantly. We forgot how to connect genuinely with each other. Cinder paused to eat a bite of food. His sharp teeth made quick work of it. Then word spread about you. A human courier who actually cared about her deliveries, who protected packages in storms, who walked extra distances to ensure on-time delivery. At first, we thought it was ridiculous that our elders cared so much. But then some of us started watching you work. You watched me, not in a creepy way, just observed during public deliveries. And we saw something we had forgotten. We saw someone who found meaning in simple dedication. Someone who honored commitments not for glory, but because the commitments mattered. It shook us. Rachel ate slowly, listening. Young dragons started talking. We realized we had lost something important. We had everything our ancestors fought for, all the technology and comfort and safety, but we had forgotten why it mattered. We forgot that connections between beings are what makes civilization worthwhile. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone just doing their job, Rachel said quietly. I know, and that's not fair to you. But please understand, you didn't ask to be a symbol, but you became one anyway. You represent something we desperately needed to remember. Rachel pushed her food around her plate. It tasted good, but she had no appetite. I've been thinking about quitting, just going back to Earth and working on my family's farm. At least there, no one treats me like I'm special. Cinder's expression fell. That would be your choice, but it would hurt a lot of dragons. Not because you owe us anything, but because your presence here reminds us daily to be better, to care more, to honor the simple things. That's not a good reason for me to stay somewhere I'm miserable. No, it's not. You're right. Cinder stood up, his head nearly touching her ceiling. I should go. But Rachel, whatever you decide, thank you for what you've already done. You change how I see the world. That matters. After Cinder left, Rachel sat alone with her thoughts. The food grew cold on her plate. Outside her window, she could see the stars beyond the station. Somewhere out there was Earth. Her family. Her old life. Her message tablet chimed. Another request. This one from a dragon named Sterling who wanted Rachel to bless his daughter's first message delivery. The girl was starting a traditional coming-of-age ceremony where young dragons delivered messages to all their family members. Rachel almost deleted it, but something made her read the full message. Sterling explained that his daughter had been anxious about the ceremony. She did not think she could do it right. But after hearing about Rachel, about how a simple courier could be honored for just doing her job well, the girl had found courage. She wanted to try. Rachel stared at the message for a long time, and she typed a reply. She could not bless anyone. She was not qualified for that, but she could offer encouragement. She wrote about her own nervousness when she first started delivering mail, about the mistakes she made, about learning that doing your best was enough. She sent the message and immediately received a reply. Sterling thanked her profusely. His daughter had read Rachel's words and cried happy tears. She was ready for her ceremony now. Rachel felt something shift inside her chest. Maybe she could not handle the crowds and the reverence and the constant attention. But this helping one person find courage through simple honesty, this she could do. Over the next few days, Rachel developed a system. She would not do public appearances or interviews, but she would answer personal messages from individuals who genuinely needed help or encouragement. She set boundaries with the dragons who waited outside her building. She could not grant blessings or perform ceremonies, but she would treat them with respect and kindness that IT helped. Slightly, the pressure lessened just enough that Rachel could breathe again, but then the news broke about the Pure Scale movement. A group of young militant dragons who believed that only dragons should be honored in dragon traditions. They called Rachel's recognition an insult to their heritage. They demanded the council revoke her status as thread weaver. Their leader, a dragon named Forge, gave speeches about cultural purity and traditional values. He had followers across multiple stations. Some were just confused young dragons who felt their culture was being diluted. Others were genuinely aggressive, talking about removing the human corruption from their sacred traditions. Dennis called Rachel into his office looking worried. There are protests, he said, at 3 different stations. Dragons carrying signs saying you're a false thread weaver. Some of them are getting violent. Station security is involved. Rachel felt sick. I never asked for any of this. I know. Look, maybe you should take some time off. Go somewhere quiet until this blows over. It won't blow over. These dragons think I'm destroying something they care about. Are you? Rachel thought about Cinder and his generation, about Sterling's daughter finding courage, about the elderly dragons who bowed to her with tears in their eyes because she reminded them of their youth. I don't think so, but I'm not sure anymore. That evening, a message arrived from the Dragon Council. Forge had issued a formal challenge. He demanded Rachel appear at the Grand Conclave, a gathering of dragons from all 47 systems, and prove she understood the true meaning of being a thread weaver. If she could not, he wanted her status revoked and wanted her banned from dragon territories. The conclave would take place in 2 weeks. Rachel could refuse to attend, but the council warned that would be seen as an admission that Forge was right. Rachel sat in her apartment reading the message over and over. 2 weeks to prepare. 2 weeks to somehow prove she deserved a title she never wanted in the first place. 2 weeks before she faced thousands of dragons who would judge whether a human could truly embody their most sacred tradition. She pulled out the message stone Ash had given her. Its blue glow pulsed steadily. In the light, Rachel could see tiny symbols carved into the crystal surface. Dragon script from centuries ago. She realized with sudden clarity that she could not run from this. Not because she owed the dragons anything, but because running would mean Forge won. It would mean the dragons like Cinder who were trying to reconnect with their heritage would lose. It would mean Sterling's daughter and thousands like her would learn that dedication and simple honesty were not enough. Rachel made her decision. She would go to the conclave. She would face Forge and his followers. And somehow, she would find a way to explain what she barely understood herself, why delivering mail mattered, why simple work done with care was sacred, why a human courier could carry the legacy of an ancient dragon tradition. She had 2 weeks to figure out how. Rachel spent every evening of the next 2 weeks preparing. Elder Granite sent her historical texts about thread weavers. She read stories of dragons who crossed war zones to deliver messages, who climbed mountains in storms, who gave their lives to maintain connections between separated communities. The tradition was beautiful and terrifying in its dedication. Cinder visited several times, bringing food and moral support. He helped her practice speaking in front of people. Rachel was not good at public speaking. Her voice shook and her hands trembled. Cinder was patient, encouraging her to speak from the heart rather than memorizing words. Forge will have a prepared speech, Cinder warned. He's been training for this. He knows dragon history better than most scholars. He'll use formal language and ancient references. Don't try to compete with that. Just be honest. Honest about what? That I'm a male courier who stumbled into something I don't understand. Honest about why you do what you do. That's what matters. Rachel tried to write a speech. She filled pages with notes about duty and responsibility and honor. But every version sounded fake, like she was trying to be someone she was not. Finally, the night before the conclave, she threw away all her notes. She pulled out a photo from her personal items. It showed her grandmother standing next to an old mail truck back on Earth. Her grandmother had delivered mail in rural areas for 40 years. Rain, snow, heat, nothing stopped her. Rachel remembered asking her once why she cared so much about a simple job. Her grandmother had smiled and said something Rachel had never forgotten. Every letter connects hearts across distance. I might just be the delivery person, but I'm the bridge that brings people together. That matters. Rachel held the photo and felt tears in her eyes. She finally understood what she needed to say. The morning of the conclave, Rachel dressed in her work uniform. Not fancy clothes or ceremonial robes. Just her standard postal service outfit with her identification badge and worn boots. If she was going to represent anything, it should be exactly what she was. The conclave was being held at Station Unity, the largest gathering place in the Empire. The journey there took several hours by fast ship. Rachel spent the time staring out the window, trying to calm her nerves. Her stomach felt like it was tied in knots. Her hands would not stop shaking. When she arrived, the scale of the event hit her. Thousands of dragons had gathered. The main hall was massive, designed to hold crowds from multiple species, but today it was entirely filled with dragons. Their scales created a rainbow of colors under the bright lights. Bronze, copper, gold, silver, red, blue, green. Every shade imaginable. The hush fell over the crowd when Rachel entered. Thousands of eyes turned to watch her walk down the center aisle. Some dragons bowed. Others watched with hostile expressions. Rachel kept her eyes forward and walked with as much confidence as she could fake that a stage had been set up at the front of the hall. The 7 council elders sat on one side. On the other side stood Forge. He was a massive dragon with scales like polished steel. His wings were spread slightly, a display of dominance. His eyes tracked Rachel as she approached. Granite stood and addressed the crowd. His voice carried through the hall without need for amplification. We gather today to address a challenge. Forge of the Pure Scale movement has questioned whether Rachel Webb, human courier, truly embodies the thread weaver tradition. She has agreed to speak before this assembly. Forge will present his arguments first, as is his right as challenger. The crowd murmured. Forge stepped forward to the center of the stage. He looked confident and powerful. When he spoke, his voice resonated with authority. Honor dragons, I stand before you today to defend our most sacred traditions. The thread weavers were the foundation of our civilization. They were dragons who understood dragon values, dragon history, dragon culture. To give this title to a human diminishes everything our ancestors fought to preserve. The crowd reacted with mixed sounds. Some cheered. Others hissed disapproval. Forge continued, his voice growing stronger. This human knows nothing of our struggles. She did not grow up learning the thread weaver oaths. She does not speak our ancient language. She has never crossed a dragon war zone or faced dragon predators. She simply delivers packages for money in a safe, modern environment. How can this possibly compare to what our ancestors endured? More cheers from parts of the crowd. Rachel felt her courage wavering. He was right about the facts. She had not done any of those things. Furthermore, Forge said, turning to point at Rachel, she treats this title as a burden. She has said publicly that she never wanted this recognition. She has hidden from her responsibilities. She has refused ceremonial duties. Is this the behavior of someone who truly honors the thread weaver tradition? The hostile section of the crowd roared approval. Rachel saw some dragons nodding agreement. Her heart sank. Forge spoke for another 10 minutes, listing reasons why Rachel was unworthy. He quoted ancient texts. He referenced historical thread weavers and their accomplishments. He painted a picture of Rachel as an outsider who accidentally stumbled into something she could never truly understand or appreciate. When he finished, the hall erupted in mixed reactions. Half the crowd cheered. The other half remained silent, but watchful. Granite gestured for quiet. Rachel Webb, you may now speak. Rachel stood and walked to the center of the stage. Her legs felt weak. Her mouth was dry. She looked out at thousands of dragon faces watching her, judging her. She reached into her pocket and touched her grandmother's photo for courage. Then she began to speak. Her voice was quiet at first, and she had to start over. I'm not good at speeches, she said, and I can't argue with Forge about dragon history because he knows more than I ever will. He's right that I'm just a courier who delivers packages for money. He's right that I never wanted this title. Some dragons shifted uncomfortably. Rachel could feel them starting to turn against her. But I want to tell you about my grandmother, she continued. She delivered mail on Earth for 40 years. In a rural area where roads were bad and houses were far apart. She drove through snowstorms and heat waves. She learned the names of everyone on her route. She knew which elderly people lived alone and needed someone to check on them. She knew which families were waiting for important letters. Rachel pulled out the photo and held it up. One time, a letter she delivered reunited a family that had been separated for 20 years. Another time, a package she protected from the rain contained medicine that saved someone's life. She didn't do these things because she was special. She did them because she understood something important. The hall had gone quiet. Every dragon was listening now. She understood that her job was about more than just moving objects from one place to another. Every letter she carried connected hearts across distance. Every package she delivered was a bridge between people who cared about each other. She was not just a delivery person. She was the connection itself. Rachel's voice grew stronger. When I started this job, I thought about her. I thought about how she treated every delivery with respect, no matter how small. How she protected every package like it was precious. Because to someone, somewhere it was precious. She looked directly at Forge. You're right that I don't know dragon history like you do, but I know what it means to honor a commitment. I know what it means to keep going even when the route is difficult. I know what it means to understand that connecting people is sacred work. Rachel turned back to the crowd. Forge says, I'm just delivering packages safely in a modern environment. But that's what we have now. We don't have war zones or predators or ancient dangers. The threat today is different. The threat is that we forget to care. We forget that real connections require real effort. We send instant messages and think we've communicated, but we haven't really connected. Her voice filled with emotion. You honored me because I reminded you of something. Not because I'm better than anyone else, but because I still treat message carrying like it matters. Like the act of physically bringing something to someone, of looking them in the eye and completing the delivery, like that has value in itself. The hall was completely silent now. I'm not trying to replace your traditions. I'm not trying to be something I'm not. I'm just a person who does her job with care because that's how I was raised. Because my grandmother taught me that every delivery connects souls. Because even in a universe with instant communication, sometimes what matters is that someone cared enough to make sure your package arrived safely. Rachel paused, gathering her final thoughts. Forge is right that I never wanted this title, but I've learned something over these past weeks. I've learned that sacred doesn't mean complicated. Sacred means finding meaning in what you do and honoring that meaning every single day. Your thread weavers did that. And in my small way, I do it too. She looked up at the thousands of dragons watching her. I don't know if that makes me worthy of your respect, but it's the truth of who I am and why I do what I do. Rachel stepped back. The hall remained silent for a long moment. Then, from somewhere in the middle of the crowd, an elderly dragon stood and bowed. Then another. Then another. Cinder stood and placed his hand over his chest. Dozens of young dragons around him did the same. The wave of respect spread through the hall like ripples on water. Even some of Forge's supporters were standing now, their expressions thoughtful rather than hostile. Forge stood alone, looking at the crowd. His confident expression had cracked. He looked uncertain, younger than before. Finally, slowly, he lowered his head in a bow. Rachel felt tears on her face. She had spoken her truth. Whatever happened next was beyond her control. Elder Granite stood from his seat and raised his wings high. The crowd fell silent immediately, showing the respect his age and position commanded. He looked at Rachel, then at Forge, then out at the assembled thousands. We have heard the challenge and the response, Granite said, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall. Forge questions whether a human can embody our thread weaver tradition. Rachel Webb has answered not with claims of worthiness, but with truth about her actions and motivations. He paused, letting his words settle over the crowd. This council must now decide. But before we do, I wish to say something. Rachel Webb spoke of her grandmother. She shared a memory that reveals the heart of what we lost and desperately needed to find again. Granite's ancient eyes swept across the dragons. We have technology that our ancestors could not imagine. We can send messages across the galaxy in seconds. We have comfort, safety, and ease. But in gaining these things, we forgot a simple truth. Connection is not about speed or convenience. Connection is about care. He gestured toward Rachel. This human cares. She protects packages in storms not because she must, but because someone is waiting. She delivers on time despite difficulty, not for praise, but because she gave her word. She treats a simple letter with the same respect as a valuable shipment, because she understands that value is not measured in currency. Granite's voice grew softer, but more intense. Our ancestors who served as thread weavers understood this. They braved dangers because they knew that maintaining connections between separated souls was the foundation of civilization itself. Modern dragons have forgotten this. We communicate constantly, but connect rarely. We are efficient, but not dedicated. We are advanced, but not sacred. The crowd listened in absolute silence. Rachel could see some dragons with tears streaming down their scaled faces. Rachel Webb did not study our history. She did not train in our traditions. She simply lived her life according to values that her own family taught her, values that happened to align perfectly with what we once held most sacred. She is not trying to be a dragon thread weaver. She is simply being the human equivalent, which is exactly what we needed to see. Granite turned to Forge. You have passion for our traditions. This is good. But tradition is not about excluding others who embody the values we claim to cherish. Tradition is about preserving the meaning, not just the form. Forge stood motionless, his steel-colored scales catching the light. When he spoke, his voice was much quieter than before. I wanted to protect what our ancestors built. I thought allowing a human to carry our most sacred title would destroy its meaning. And now, Granite asked gently, now I am uncertain. She spoke of things I had not considered, about how sacred can be simple, about how dedication matters more than heritage. Forge looked at Rachel directly for the first time. I have been studying thread weaver history my entire life. I know every oath, every ceremony, every tradition, but I have never delivered a single message with the care she described. I have knowledge, but not understanding. He bowed his head lower. I was wrong to challenge her. I was defending traditions I admired, but did not practice. She lives them without even knowing their names. A ripple of reaction moved through the crowd. Some of Forge's supporters looked stunned. Others nodded slowly, as if arriving at the same realization. Granite spread his wings wider. The council has reached our decision. Rachel Webb will retain the title of Thread Weaver. Furthermore, we grant her a new designation. She will be known as the Keeper of Words for the Etarian Empire. This is a position that has not existed for 800 years. The crowd erupted in mixed reactions. Cheers, gasps, some sounds of protest quickly silenced by others. Rachel felt panic rising. Wait, I don't want a new title. I just want to do my job. Granite actually smiled, showing rows of teeth that somehow looked kind. We know. That is precisely why you deserve it. But please, let me explain what this means. The Keeper of Words is not a ceremonial position. It is a working role. You will continue your mail delivery exactly as you have been doing. Then what's the point of the title? You will also carry ceremonial messages on special occasions. Births, deaths, bondings, important announcements. When dragons need a message delivered that holds deep personal significance, they may request you specifically. You may accept or decline these requests as you choose. There is no obligation beyond your regular work. Rachel processed this. So I keep doing my normal job, but sometimes I might deliver extra important messages? Yes, and you will be paid appropriately for these special deliveries. The council will establish a fund to ensure fair compensation. That seems reasonable, Rachel admitted. But I have one condition. The crowd murmured with surprise. Granite tilted his head. Speak it. I keep my regular route. I don't want to only deliver to dragons or only carry special messages. If I'm representing this thread weaver tradition, then I should treat all deliveries equally. Rich or poor, important or mundane, dragon or human, or any other species. Everyone gets the same care. Granite's smile widened. You continue to teach us even as we honor you. Yes, your condition is accepted. He turned to the crowd. Does anyone challenge this decision? The hall remained silent. Even the dragons who had protested earlier said nothing. Forge raised his hand over his chest in formal salute. Then it is decided, Granite declared. Rachel Webb is recognized as Keeper of Words. Let her example remind us all that sacred work is simply work done with sacred intention. The crowd stood as one and bowed. Thousands of dragons honoring a single human courier. Rachel felt overwhelmed, but also, for the first time since this all began, at peace. She had not asked for this, but she could live with it. She could continue being exactly who she was while serving a purpose larger than herself. After the conclave ended, dragons approached Rachel wanting to talk. But Cinder and several other young dragons formed a protective circle around her, politely but firmly keeping the crowd at bay. They escorted her to a quiet room where she could breathe and process everything. Forge entered the room a short time later. Up close, without his aggressive posture, he looked younger. Maybe only 40 standard years, which was quite young for a dragon. "I owe you an apology," he said. "I let fear drive me to cruelty. I was afraid that our traditions were being stolen or diminished. I did not understand that traditions grow stronger when their core values are recognized in unexpected places." Rachel stood and faced him. "You were protecting something you love. I understand that, and you are not entirely wrong. I am an outsider to your culture, but maybe that's okay. Maybe sometimes outsiders can see value that insiders have started to take for granted." Forge considered this. "Will you teach me?" "Teach you what?" "How to deliver messages with the care you described. I want to understand, not just know, what it means to be a thread weaver." Rachel laughed, surprising herself. "You want me to teach you how to deliver mail?" "Yes, if you will." "Okay, meet me at Port Haven Station next Tuesday at 6 in the morning. Wear comfortable clothes. We'll walk my route together." Forge bowed deeply. "I will be there." 2 months later, Rachel stood at her usual delivery station, loading her cart. The morning rush of workers and travelers flowed around her. The smell of coffee and fresh bread from the nearby cafe mixed with the metallic scent of the station's recycled air. Forge appeared carrying a delivery bag of his own. Over the past weeks, he had followed Rachel on her routes, learning not just the mechanics of delivery, but the philosophy behind it. He was surprisingly good at it. His size made him intimidating, but his growing gentleness with packages showed real progress. "Ready for today?" Rachel asked. "Ready," Forge confirmed. "Station Gamma, 12, residential sector?" "That's right. We have 47 deliveries between us. Should take about 4 hours if we keep a good pace." They set out together, a human and a dragon walking side by side through the station corridors. Other dragons they passed still bowed to Rachel, but now she bowed back. A simple gesture of mutual respect between equals. Her message scanner chimed. A special request for a ceremonial delivery. A dragon family wanted her to carry the announcement of a new hatching to their relatives across 3 stations. Rachel accepted the request and added it to her schedule. She pulled out her grandmother's photo, which she now carried with her every day. Looking at it reminded her of why she did this work. Every letter connects hearts across distance. Every package is a bridge between souls who care about each other. Rachel put the photo away and checked her next address. A simple apartment in the lower levels. Probably just a standard delivery, nothing special. But she would protect it from damage and deliver it on time because someone was waiting. Someone cared about what was in that package. That was enough. That was everything. As she and Forge continued their route, Rachel thought about how strange her life had become. She was still just a mail courier. Still the same person who had started this job 2 years ago. But now she understood that her work mattered in ways she had never imagined. She was a keeper of words, a weaver of threads, a bridge between separated hearts. Not because of a title, but because of how she chose to approach her work every single day. The message Stone Ash had given her rested in her pocket, warm against her leg. Rachel reached down and touched it, feeling the connection to 800 years of tradition. Ancient dragons who had done exactly what she was doing now. Walking through difficulty, protecting messages, honoring the connections between beings. She was part of that legacy. Not replacing it or diminishing it, but continuing it in a new form for a new age. A young dragon child ran past, nearly knocking into Rachel's cart. The child's mother called out an apology. Rachel just laughed and steadied her cart. Normal station life continuing around her. She was part of it, no longer separate or isolated by her unexpected fame. "You look happy," Forge observed. "I am," Rachel said honestly. "I'm exactly where I should be, doing exactly what I should be doing." They continued walking, 2 beings from different worlds united by shared values and simple dedication. Behind them stretched the threads they wove with every delivery. Connections between souls. Bridges across distance. The sacred work of ordinary days done with extraordinary care. Rachel Webb, human mail courier and keeper of words, smiled as she checked the next address on her route and continued forward. There was work to do, messages to carry, connections to maintain. And that was enough. That was everything.